Gemini Cell Salt, Kali Mur. We're going to talk about this cell salt, what it can do from an exoteric and esoteric point of view. But the first part of this is going to be more just of the basic rundown of what it is. Potassium chloride, and those born with the Gemini Sun tend to burn up more of this salt. And this is all based on George W. Carey's take on the cell salts. So firstly, we'll just talk about, I'm not going to rattle off all the signs and symptoms, right? But just a basic understanding of some of the key things I've found to be of importance, particularly clinically, with this salt. Because it's, like all the salts, they're highly, highly beneficial. And for those of you who do have children, having knowledge of these 12 salts is critical. It'll save you a lot of trips to the doctor and all this kind of thing, which pretty much these days you want to avoid as best you can. So basically, this salt, and I'll be talking a few in relation to Chinese medicine point of view, this salt pretty much will clean the blood. It is used for congestion, particularly phlegm, dampness in Chinese medicine, particularly white phlegm that you cough up, or when you see a tongue that is a thick white coating, Kali Mur, potassium chloride, is very much indicated. It's indicated for all congestive conditions and diseases. So most inflammatory stages, or the first stage of disease, say when you're just coming down with a cold, this is a salt you have. It rules the throat. Gemini rules the throat, the lungs, and it is indicated most likely in combination with iron phosphate, but I'm not going to go into that. We'll talk about iron when we go into Pisces. But for the moment, yes. So cold, flus, congestion, white phlegm, infections such as chickenpox or measles, it's indicated for. And it's a glandular regenerator. So it's one of the most, for those who have fertility issues or deal with a lot of women who come in with infertility, this is one of the issues that it can be used as a glandular regenerator. And there's a very high possibility that pregnancy can occur having high doses of this salt. And one of the reasons is, firstly, it cleans the blood, which I personally think from a Chinese medical point of view, it eliminates blood stagnation, but also it eliminates phlegm. And phlegm can be a problem. So with women who suffer PCOS and all this kind of thing, this salt will clean up particularly all that. So on that level, it's tremendous. Another very good reason for using this mineral. Another one is, I'll just throw in fibroids as well. Also lumps and cysts in the breast. Absolutely critical as well. Potassium chloride, Kali Mur, can dissolve. It's, in other words, we'd say in Chinese medicine, dissolving phlegm, resolving phlegm. And interestingly enough, this mineral is highly depleted around electromagnetic fields. So people who do a lot of flying, I mean, what really causes DVTs from flying is not just the pressure in the atmosphere from the cabin, it's you're baking yourself in electromagnetic radiation in a plane. And this is what causes blood to coagulate, deoxygenate. So this mineral is highly, highly critical if you do a lot of flying. You'd probably want to dose up very highly on this. This mineral will counteract the effects of the electromagnetic radiation on the body, and it's one of the key ones for jet lag. So if you do a lot of flying, dose up heavily on this. And it's also, I mean, you've got to be a bit careful about the words I say here because we don't want to get taken off the channel. But, I've got this old Blackmore's book, which my mother used to have when she was a naturopath, and he would say, high doses of potassium chloride are very beneficial for vaccination damage. Highly, like he mentions quite a few times that a lot of people, when they were ridden off after the bad effects of vaccination, this mineral was one of the keys. It's also very good for warts, particularly warts in children, and warts in Chinese medicine again are considered phlegm. That's another key aspect. And one of the most beneficial ways you can use this mineral, and I'm not going to go through just a lot of indications of how to use this, but the most effective way I would say to use this is particularly for yourself and children when you feel like you're coming down with a cold. The first stage, when the phlegm's white and hasn't turned yellow, it's still at that stage, you've got the sore throat, you're feeling like a little bit feverish, then you combine it with iron and this mineral as well, and there you have the first stage of defense the first stage of defense. These are the two minerals you use, and it's highly effective. It will stop the cold coming on and taking it further to the next level. So one of the most beneficial ways, and because we're so surrounded constantly by Wi-Fi as well at the moment, and particularly if they're going to bring up they're bringing in the 5G towers, and this is one of the most important minerals to counteract the effects of that on the body and the blood. Because there's a lot of people, particularly when this so-called thing came out in Wuhan, so to speak, but there's a lot of great doctors who've been talking about a lot of this effects was to do with electromagnetic poisoning, and this is one of the minerals that is very key for that. So on that note, I'm just going to end this section here just before we go into the real good stuff in regards to the more esoteric significance of the sign Gemini. We'll get into the myth of Hermes, the psychopomp, and the Gemini, the deeper side of Geminis, and how this mineral's used, and how, in terms of, I guess, how you in a way you could call this kind of alchemy. So we'll just end this section here, and then we'll go into it from there. Mercury, the god Hermes, rules Gemini. So the word Mercury in Latin means merx, meaning goods, merchandise. He was the messenger of God, the god of oratory, conductor of souls of the dead to the lower world, and patron of merchants and thieves. He is the messenger, pure mind, and utilizes the electrical energy of thought and the substantial nerve fluids that run up through the spinal canal into the brain. The esse, or essence. Similarities to Jing and essence in Chinese medicine, nourishes the mind, nourishes the brain. Mercury stands for merchandise, wares or goods, utilized in commerce or exchanged by the body, by the mind in the body. And as a god of oratory, he refers to the mental power necessary to become a good speaker, one who voices truth. the messenger of the underworld. Gemini's sons, Gemini, a lot of people who have a prominent Gemini make excellent therapists. At times, that's got a bit of a bad rep in terms of being superficial and scattered. And I guess when it's in a very difficult aspect, that can be the case. But most of them have the ability to make incredible therapists due to the fact that Mercury was a psychopomp and was the only god who could visit Hermes down in the pits of the underworld and come back up as a messenger of the underworld, and to be able to communicate that to people. So Hermes, in my opinion, would be one of those gods who can have that ability to communicate the shadow of the psyche. And Gemini is considered a neutral sign, which I find very interesting. Because most of the signs, it starts off what? Where do we start? We start in Aries, then it goes Taurus, Gemini. Aries is masculine, Taurus is feminine, and then Gemini is what they call a neuter or neutral. And I think this is where they come up with the idea of the androgyny, Mercury being that androgynous god. And it's interesting how where we're heading in this term now in terms of the androgyny when it comes to, well, we can be whatever the hell we want to be when it comes to sex now. They're trying to eradicate that in some weird, perverted kind of reason. They're trying to make people the gods in some way or another. And I wouldn't say they're trying, I'm not saying that, I'm saying this in its kind of negative sense. But here we have this symbol or picture of the twins. The twins is interesting. Are they male and female, or are they same sex, or are they neutral? And it's interesting because in one of these very old books I have here on this particular subject on Gemini is the Egyptian symbol of Gemini was not a pair of male twins, but a woman and a man with joined hands. In Sanskrit, they were called Mithuna or Maithuna, the lovers, representing card 6 in the tarot, the lovers, which is ruled by Gemini. And an incredibly great healing card. It rules healing. And it has the Archangel Raphael above it, hovering over. The Romans viewed them as the gods of Apollo, coupled with twin sisters, Diana, Artemis. The Babylonians named them Mastaba-Galgal, twins of indefinite gender. The Persians and Greeks called them Dopactica, excuse my language there, Dopactica and Didymoi, the twins. Male twins like Castor and Pollux, the Dioscuri, may have been patriarchal versions of early androgynous pairs. The older myth, the gods and goddess were twins as well as spouses and even mother-child dyads. Mother, sister, and brides of the gods were all embodied with the same triple goddess. Astrological designations of the heavenly twins usually connect them with Romulus and Remus, the alleged founders of Rome, the twin foster sons of the famous Sabine she-wolf. Originally, there was some doubt about their gender also, so there's been a lot of doubt about the genders of these types throughout different eras in history. Some said the real founder of Romulan Remus gens was a woman named Rome. That's spelled Rhome. She was either a Greek or a fugitive from the fallen Troy. So, there's been this astrological androgynous view of the astrological twins over time. And I guess this is why people, Gemini people can be considered dualistic in their interests. They can have tastes. They can tend to have always two things going on at the same time. There's a restlessness within them. There's a cleverness, an inventiveness. They can be a little bit impatient. They can become bored easily because the mind is constantly working and tweaking. The Gemini really governs the arts and sciences as well, covering many different kinds of old knowledge. The Gemini mind can cover a lot of breadth of things and not so much depth, because they have the ability to grasp a number of subjects very quickly. And in the terms of the meaning of Castor and Pollux, getting back to that, which I think is a very famous in Rome, the Castor and Pollux is, in their etymology, the castor is derived from the Latin word castus, meaning pure, spotless, abstinence from sensual pleasure, chastity. And pollux means to defile or pollute. So there's this thing going on within the Gemini. The twins can signify the higher and lower selves, or the individuality and personality on the mental plane. There are two centers of consciousness in the soul for higher and lower activities. So that can be that battle we have within us. We Gemini struggle with that battle with the higher and lower mind. In the Vedas, the twins are called physicians of heaven, and probably refers to the influence of Mercury, whose caduceus is to this day. Clearly we see the caduceus everywhere. On the Army Medical Corps, and among physicians in general. A lot of them probably don't even know what it means and where it comes from. The Latin word caduceus, cadus, meaning a vessel or a jar, also from the verb cado, meaning to fall. A dead body is termed a cadaver and is derived from the same root. In the Webster's Dictionary, informs us that the caduceus is derived from cadere, meaning to fall. Summing up our various interpretations, we find that the human body is a vessel or a jar containing the water of life. When a living body falls lifeless, it is termed a cadaver. It is a desert, a deserted place from which the water of life has departed. In Chinese medicine, when we do acupuncture, it's considered, the body's considered water. There's all these, what they call the shoestring points, which are the famous 5 transporting points. It's all about regulating water, the water passages in the Bible. And funnily enough, the lungs in Chinese medicine regulate the water passages. So it's interesting, all this take with water and the lungs. And it's interesting how the meaning of the caduceus, summing up the body as a vessel or a jar containing the water of life. Now the Gemini really relates to the hands, the arms, the shoulders, the bronchi, the airways of the lungs. It's where oxygen, the spirit or prana, combines with blood for the arterial system. And it's amazing how there's really kind of little known about this. It's like the connecting to the breath in Chinese medicine will be considered Tian Qi, which means heavenly Qi. So breathing, you're drawing in Qi from the heavens, the ether, into the lung to circulate and move blood. It's so, in that analogy, it's Qi that moves blood. Prana moves blood. It's not the heart that pumps blood, it's Qi. It moves it. And Wilhelm Reich picked up on this as well in his fantastic work on his discovery of orgone. It's the Qi that moves the blood around the body. And so when they're talking about Mercury and the means of the mind, it's also through which the mind expresses in the physical body, namely the cerebral spinal system or semi-fluidic material which constitutes the soul. And we need a healthy amount of Qi to move blood, like I said before. And this is why Kali Mur, potassium chloride, when deficient, the blood thickens. Makes the heart work harder. Excuse me. And then there's more energy that is required to circulate the blood. And it's very helpful in childhood conditions, like I said before, as it's indicated specifically for children's disease. So we use it in the first line of defense, coming down with a cold or a flu. It's one of the key indications for children who have vax damage or have had vaccination injuries. Or if you're preparing your child to have vaccinations, indicated potassium chloride plus iron phosphate. Those two together are the key. And but very highly effective in children with scarlet fevers, measles, chickenpox, swollen glands, mumps, and throat irritations such as diphtheria, tonsillitis. Incredibly good for sore throats. And it can also be good for rheumatism and brain fog, inability to think clearly. Like I said, when we look at the tongue will possibly have a very thick white tongue coating. Very thick. You can get brain fog, a sick headache in relation to a sluggish liver. There can be earache, swelling of the glands, grey-white furred tongue, like I said before. Crackling noises in the ears, this salt is very indicated for. Dullness of hearing from throat affections or swelling of the middle ear. Stuffy colds in the head. Thick white discharge of the throat. Like I said, catarrh, face, which is phlegm. Face and from swelling, gums and cheeks. Canker sores in the mouth, ulcerated throat. Poor appetite too can be, pneumonia, pleurisy, all these coughs, embolisms with thick blood, poor circulation. It's one of the chief remedies actually in epilepsy, because this salt has a particular ability to regenerate the cells in the brain. So all these salts have these incredible connections to part of the mysteries, and there's a lot to go in there, but that's a very, very brief take on Mercury, Hermes, the messenger of the god, the underworld, and in relation to this salts. And there's many good ways. So Gemini Sun naturally will need Kali Mur as a salt. And the next salt I'm going to move into will be Cancer. So stay tuned for that one. And we'll get into that next. That'll be the next one in the series, and we'll finish off the series. We're going to go through the 12. So stay tuned for the next one, the Cancer Cell Salt.